Heyo, we're brought to you in part by Suds Full Service Car Wash. Fuel your fleet's finesse with Suds unbeatable cleaning packages. They'll shine like new every time. Visit sudsregina.com. Speaking of shining like new, Coach Matt DuBuc joins us from beautiful Fort Lauderdale, Florida, CFL alum, three-time state champion. How you doing, Coach?
Good. How you doing? Good to be back.
Good. Yeah, for sure. Hey, listen, I'm going to jump right into an NFL question that's burning on my mind. We're going to talk all levels of football. Actually, before we even do that, we should talk about Saturday's game at the Raiders Stadium, Allegiant Stadium. I went over to your house to watch on the Silver State Sports and Entertainment Network. Man, did they do a nice job of that broadcast. The drone going down the Vegas Strip, heading south, took a right at the Luxor and over to the Allegiant Stadium. And quite a game between New Mexico and UNLV, huh?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Obviously, Trey played pretty good, and I'll go back and compare it to the Canadian games. Special teams. I mean, everybody wants to kind of spend as less amount of time as you as possible, but New Mexico special teams were great, and then look what happens in Calgary and BC. Turnovers and then a late kick win. So you can't spend enough time on it as a coach. That's for sure.
Coach DuBuc's son, Trey, is the long snapper for the Lobos, so that's why we were watching it. We had a lot of fun, and he cooked for us. And, the viewers, the reason I bring that up is the viewers are saying Canada has the best breakfast, and you know your way around the grill. I found that out on Saturday. But it's not a cooking show.
Thank you.
It's a sports show. And so Jaden Daniels gets hurt in garbage time, fourth quarter for the Commanders against Seattle. Are you following that? How you've been in that spot? How are you on taking your starters, especially your quarterback, out in a game like that?
Well, it happened to us the other night. We were up by 14, and we put in another quarterback, a young guy, and next thing you know, we're trying to run the clock out, and we turn it over on a missed exchange, and next thing you know, they hit us for a touchdown instead of getting out of there pretty quick. Now you're in a dogfight. You can't make a mistake. So I understand it from the coach side. Maybe they thought they had a chance to get back in it. But you got to get the guy out of there, especially if it's your franchise quarterback at some point when, all things are lost.
Well, you've been at the big levels. Like, there is no handbook for this. It's not like if you're down by this much in this situation, you take out your quarterback. What is it, a feel thing, analytics? How do you know? How do you know when you should take them out?
I think it's a feel thing. I think analytics have their place in football, and I know our coach at New Mexico uses a lot of the analytics, and he made a decision last week where he said, "Hey, I had to trust my gut on this one, and I went against the analytics." And then, calling plays from the press box is obviously a lot easier than calling it from the field, but then you lose that eye-to-eye contact. You lose that relationship. So some guys are great calling it from the box. Some are better calling it from the field. I just think that's a preference, and we'll probably debate this again at some point in time in the future.
The viewers could tell by Coach DuBuc's name, he is from Montreal, or specifically Verdun, correct? That's your home?
Laval. That's right.
Laval?
That's
Okay.
Grew up.
Okay. Well, you've been down here a long time, and you are a Dolphins guy. I'm trying to tee this all up. You're Mr. Florida. Where are the Dolphins going from here? Firing Chris Greer, the general manager, on Friday, and you got a lame duck coach, I'm afraid to say, Mike McDaniel, for half a season here.
Yeah, I grew up going to the Dolphins game, Orange Bowl. Had the pleasure of watching Dan Marino, Mark Duper, Mark Clayton, Nat Moore. The no-name defense. And unfortunately, it's just, they've not been able to string any success together over the last 20 years or so. And it's sad because they have a beautiful stadium that Joe Robbie built, and the owner, made it nice or updated it. And we just haven't been able to get the quarterback with the coach, I guess. We had Jimmy Johnson. He didn't have much success. So I don't know. It's sad. It's tough. Now the Hurricanes got beat this week, so I don't know. I think maybe everybody will just focus on high school football for a little bit.
It's kind of a repressed football market right now in South Florida. Like my neighbor Fish, you've heard me talk about him. You haven't met him yet,
Yeah.
but he said the Dolphins have killed his love of football. He said he's been numb since Thursday. And I'm like, well, I don't like to hear that, but it's your life. So listen, there's a lot of people that have tuned in here because it's for the CFL talk. You're alum. You won a Grey Cup with the Argos. You played with Winnipeg. I don't know how much of the CFL games you were able to watch on Saturday, but in the East, semifinal, Montreal beating Winnipeg 42-33 in a semifinal in Montreal. And in the West, a walk-off field goal by BC. They beat Calgary 33-30. It sets up the division finals this Saturday. Montreal at Hamilton in the East, and in the West, BC at Saskatchewan. You nailed the winners last week when I texted you who it was going to be. Do you know yet who's going to win this weekend?
I'm telling you, you're going to see Montreal and Saskatchewan in the Grey Cup. I told that to O'Day about a month ago. It's going to happen. I think
Continue.
the Montreal offense is legit with Davis Alexander, Stevie Scott. Boy, he ran the ball well. Bo's great. I just don't think that they're as a complete team as Montreal. And then BC's got to go play in the elements. I don't know what the weather's going to be, but it's not going to be in the dome, and it's not going to be sunny out, I'm sure. So I like Saskatchewan, having to practice in that and be a little bit more adept to that. So, we can talk about the Grey Cup when those two teams get in it, but I do think they're the two class teams of the league right now.
Okay. Saturday night, Western Final in the Canadian Football League. The game in Regina is calling for cloudy and 27 degrees Fahrenheit. Fahrenheit, Coach. In Celsius, that'll be -3 Celsius. That's a little cold, huh?
I love Saskatchewan in that, and I love O'Rourke. I think he's great, but I just think Jeremy's done a good job building that thing for that temperature. And I'll say this about the Dolphins, because I know you like to talk about the NFL too. The Dolphins, when we had two of the last 2 years, and they would go into Buffalo late in the season and have a chance to make the playoffs or beat Buffalo, they just never adjusted to late in the season football when it starts to get cold up north. And you're going to have to go through Buffalo or New England, and the GM or the coach or whomever's calling the shots there, they never put that team. It was always a very finesse team. And he's tried to run the football the last few weeks, and he had a little success 2 weeks ago. But, I think in the NFL, you have to have that big back and rely on them, or a couple of them. And I just don't think we have done a good job up front with the offensive line and whatnot with the Dolphins.
Well, okay, this is exactly what I want. Jumping all over the place at all levels of football. That's why I brought you on, because you can do it. Jeff in Toronto writes in, he says, my favorite thing is listening to dudes under the age of 50 bragging about the 72 Dolphins. Scott in Vancouver says, those were great years for the Dolphins, coach. The Clayton Duper years with Marino. Jeff in Calgary, the Stamps fan, says, when is the Hardy Cup being played? It's this Saturday, Regina Rams at Saskatchewan Huskies at Griffith Stadium. This Saturday, Canada West TV. So, we're literally jumping all over everything. But, when you say, yeah, I get it. The Dolphins are soft. They can't play in the cold. But that's a little like Canada's NHL drought going back to 93. And people say there's too much pressure in Canada on these Canadian teams, and that's why they can't win the Stanley Cup. There are warm weather teams that win Super Bowls. Like the Buccaneers just won a Super Bowl. They had to go on the road at times to do it.
No, but every situation is different. And if you what's the insanity thing? If you keep doing the same thing over and over and over again, you're going to get the same result. And they never adjusted to it. You were at our game the other night. I'm a high school coach. I make a ton of adjustments all night long, but I'm not doing it for a job where I get paid millions of dollars. These guys are in offices all day long. They will study so much film. And somebody at some point's got to say, we're not very tough, and we got to get tougher. And maybe we need to recruit or draft guys from Penn State and Wisconsin, linemen and guys that can do that.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, we don't do that. We haven't done that, and we're known as a soft football team. Joe Rose says it every day, which you mentioned, Joe, on your show not too long ago. So yeah, I think that's the major issue here in Miami. They need to get a I hate to say it, the coach before McDaniel was a hard ass, excuse my language, and they ran him out of town. And he was doing good. So I don't know. I just think it starts at the top and moves its way down.
That coach, by the way, is Brian Flores, who just won with the Vikings
Brian Flores.
yesterday in Detroit. Right. You think he's not having the last laugh now?
No, and he was a tough dude and demanded a lot from this team, and they were improving. And I think that whole Tua situation, that's a scandal down here about that. I don't know. I just don't think Tua's the guy either. I mean, he's not. He's proven it. And then they give him a contract of all this money, and the guy's been concussed 72 times. We got to be smarter. Is all I'm saying.
I couldn't agree more. And this is funny. I'm enjoying the comments from the viewers. Tony and Cochran writes in, who's a great guy. He says, Larry Zonka, Mercury Morris. That was 50 years ago. And those are special guys. Mercury Morris, you got to love Mercury Morris, right? You coached at his school, didn't you?
No, no,
What was the connection you had? I thought you had a connection with Mercury Morris, a Texas connection.
no. I don't think so.
Isn't he from Canyon, Texas? Okay. Maybe I'm getting confused with another guy. But anyways, the Larry Zonka Mercury Morris thing, that was a long time ago. That was and their names, as you know, Matt, come up here all the time. Like people talk about them still to this day. It's been 50 years.
The good thing about the Dolphins organization that they've done a long time is they honor their past players. So a lot of those alumni guys, they're always at games, and it's kind of like college. Once you play for the Dolphins, people, kind of stick with the program. Maybe because they don't move out of here because it's a nice place to live, and they just go to the games and they have access to it. But I definitely remember all those guys and the killer bees and on defense and. We couldn't run the football when we had Dan Marino, but we could certainly throw it. Now we can't throw it or run it, so it's a double-edged sword, I guess.
Mercury Morris is from Palm Beach County, and he played at West Texas A&M in Canyon, Texas. And I thought you had a connection to Canyon, Texas. Am I wrong?
I was a receivers coach at West Texas A&M, but like I didn't even know that until you just brought it up.
Well,
I didn't know
leave
Mercury
it to
went
me.
to West Texas A&M.
Have you not realized by now I know things?
You're on top of things, Rod.
There's no doubt about that. Absolutely no doubt about that. Who, by the way, is the best team in the NFL right now?
Oof. I'm kind of a Josh Allen fan right now. I mean, I just think he's special. And then Kansas City loses last night. I think the NFL, there's just like the CFL. You can't pick who's the best until you get to the playoffs. You know who the bad ones are, but there's still a lot of parity. And I think Philadelphia might be. They're making a lot of trades. I guess they made a couple of trades today. They got Jalen Phillips from the Dolphins. Um, so I definitely think that Philly's probably right up there, and see if your Dallas Cowboys can get to even tonight. Not sure that's going to happen, but you know, um, I don't know. That's a great question. I'll tell you in about 4 or 5 weeks. How about that?
Well, I know, but I know it's a tough question. It's subjective, but I just think Josh Allen yesterday beating the Chiefs is no joke. Right. And by
No,
the way, that's their fifth straight in the regular season against Kansas City. They've lost four straight in the playoffs against Kansas City. But you know yourself, you've been around this as long as me, and we're the same age. What we're doing now is for seeding for the playoffs, where I think home field means a lot. But I don't know if you read my newsletter on the weekend. Home teams
I did.
now in the CFL 72-39 since 96 in the playoffs when you played in the league. How much does home team at your home field, at your level, CFL, NFL, college mean? According to that stat, it means a lot.
I think it counts. I'll start off with our season. Um, we're undefeated on the road, and we have two losses at home. That never happens. And then the Lobos haven't been in a bowl game since I think 2010, and they go out and beat UNLV on the road, which was 6-1. Um, you're in your own house, your own house, or when you're at home, everything's just a little bit slower. When you're on the road, I don't know, maybe it's just like you're sharper on the road because you have to be
Yeah.
mentally. But the travel too. If you're banged up or you're hurt, that doesn't help. So I think things have to be kind of hitting right at all times for those statistics to be legitimate all the time. And they're not. But yeah, I'd rather be home than getting on a bus and going down to Sarasota. I can tell you that.
Oh, I know. And I smile because if there was one exact template, everybody would do it. That's what's fun about it. Trying to find the magic combination to win. I get it. But, by the way, the last question, because we only have a couple minutes left. Jim Barker was here on Friday and said the pressure on college coaches isn't as much as it used to because the salaries are so high. Talking about the buyouts for Brian Kelly and so forth. Do you buy that? Because I feel like even Dave Roberts, the Dodgers skipper, had a lot of pressure on him with a $509 million payroll. But the talk of the coaches' salaries in college football is like the talk of the game right now. Correct?
I respect Coach Barker a ton, but let me tell you this: if you're going to get paid $750,000 a month for the next 7 years, you don't care. You know who gets hurt? The position coaches, the staffers, the people that work in the building. Those are the ones that suffer, not the head coach. I don't feel bad for any of these guys that get fired, the head guys, because they all have a golden parachute. They're like big CEOs of companies that they're asked to go away. But the guy that's making, $200,000, or this might be his first real job where he's making 200 grand, and now Brian Kelly's gone. Those jobs aren't, they're hard to get to. So I don't feel bad for the head guys. I feel bad for the people, the staffers, the assistants, the secretaries. Those are the people that suffer in the end.
Oh, you see Hugh Freeze got fired? Who were we just
Yes, I
talking
saw
about?
that. Unfortunately, I can't say that over there, but that aggravates me.
I know. And then was just with what you're talking about is his staff. Kent Austin, close friend of mine, all of a sudden it just throws everything up in the air, man. I think the one thing about college football, and we only have literally 1 minute left. Nobody knows where this is going unless you do. I don't know where it's going financially with NIL. Do you?
I think there's going to be parameters put in place. They started off like the Wild Wild West, and now even with the portals windows now down to 15 days from 2 periods to 1 period, you just can't build a team. But then you look at New Mexico, and they're the second highest amount of portal guys in the country, 70 some odd guys, and they're 6-3, and they're going to a bowl game. But that doesn't work everywhere, and it hasn't. We're talking about the ones that it did work at. What about the ones that it didn't? Where at Auburn, you get average guys making 40K before he steps on campus in NIL. The great guys are quarterbacks are making millions. So yeah, it needs to be fixed, subsidized some way, somehow better. But just shows you how much money's out there. It's a lot.
Yeah. All right, Coach. Great chat. Thank you, Coach. Coach Matt DuBuc
All right, have a
joining us
great
from
day.
Fort Lauderdale. You too, man. An absolutely wonderful football discussion, which I knew we'd have with Coach DuBuc. We'll be right back. Silver State Sports Entertainment Network and Game Plus.